All right. And so it begins. So let me just tell you briefly what led up to it. And then I'm going to start sharing the process because it, my first three books discuss what happened after I left the 10th and final time, which I mentioned in the, hopefully you're watching these videos in order, although it's probably not necessary. You probably don't have to do it that way. Um, um, so I left my last abuser in a long line of abusers a total of 10 times. And 9 out of those 10 times, I obviously went back. Um, and my reasons for going back, if you've lived it, then you know. The reasons for going back are personal to the person who's going back. Okay, so he threatened my children's lives. That was one of his favorite things to do. I know where your kids are, and I'm going to go kill them if you don't come back. Or he would harass my friends, my single mother friends at home, so that they, one in particular that I worked with, he would go get drunk and park in her driveway and call her on the phone and threaten her children, and she would have to like hide under the bed until he passed out in his car in her driveway, and then she'd have to sneak her kids out because he would call her and say, tell me where she is or I'm coming in, and she didn't even know I had left again. So she's freaking out because she actually knew what he was capable of, and so she got to work that morning and said, will you please go back? Please go back because I can't do this again. I can't do this again. And just that kind of thing. Um, I lived, the abuse in my life began when I was about 5. Uh, and it was, I learned a lot. I learned a lot during my childhood about how I wasn't worth anything, how no one would ever love me, how I was ugly, how I was worthless because I was a girl. That was a big thing. Well, you're just a girl, so you're not worth anything. Um, and nobody will ever love you because you're not worthy of it. You don't deserve to be loved. Um, and, and that was beaten into me as a child. So of course I grew up believing it because I wasn't exposed to really anything else. My mom loved me, but my mom was an alcoholic and she had emotional issues and she spent a lot of time in the hospital. So she basically wasn't there. She wasn't there. My father remarried uh, a woman who had a son who was much older than me, and that is who taught me who I really was, who I really was. Um, so I grew up believing I was a worthless piece of crap, and as I got older, I started treating myself that way too because that was the way my life was, and I didn't know anything else. So if somebody was nice to me, um, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it because it went against everything that I knew was the truth about me. So, um, as a teenager and a young adult, I got involved with boys and men who treated me the way I was the most comfortable being treated, even though it was painful. And if I got involved with anyone who was nice, I I spent the entire time trying to figure out why they were so weird and when they were going to hurt me. Because if they were nice to me, that was weird. I did not know how to handle it. Um, and it wasn't a fun way to live. It was not, it was a painful way to live. And I learned very thoroughly how to hate myself. I hated myself. I hated my life. Um, Most of the abuse that happened to me as a child was perpetrated upon me by Christians. Um, and so I learned how to hate God as well. I learned how to hate um, Christianity as a religion. um, and God personally. And it was not a happy life. It was not a happy life. And so, oh, and then there were the drugs. You know, I drank. I drank a lot. I drank a lot as a young adult. And I did cocaine. And I'm surprised I'm still alive. I'm happy I'm still alive, but I'm also kind of surprised because I didn't treat myself very well. I did not treat myself very well in my late teens, throughout my 20s, and into my early 30s. Um, but here I am. I'm 51 now, and I'm still here. I didn't expect to see the age of 40. So I'm 51, which means I've given myself an extra 11 years on top of what I actually expected to survive through. So this is a good thing. So that last relationship is the one that I will probably go to the most because that's when the change happened. I mean, the relationships before that, except for my second husband is a wonderful man. Um, and we were together for a long time, and he was not abusive. He was not abusive, but that was when I was doing the drugs. You know, that was that was the party days and escaping from my self-hatred and into drugs and alcohol. Um, so I just want to get that out there because if he ever watches this, I want him to know you're my friend and I love you and I thank you for never abusing me. Um, but the last relationship I was in before I left domestic violence behind me for good was another painful, ugly one. You know, it's and I'm wondering how many people have watched the first video and asked the question, you know, you say that the domestic violence dynamic can be changed from the inside out, but yet you had to leave. You were forced to climb on a Greyhound bus and run for your life. So seems like a bit of a contradiction. Seems like a bit of a contradiction. It's not. It's not, because I changed my own cycle of abuse. I changed who I was in that relationship. Yes, he got worse. He got more violent. He got more angry because I wasn't giving him what he needed in order to feel like he had that power and control over me. So yes, I did have to leave to physically save my own life. However, the person I had become, so this whole website, this whole Lotus and the Butterfly thing, whatever process, is about, it's about the process. Somebody said in my presence last November that leaving is not an event. It's a process. And I went, oh my God, all of my books are about the event. You know, that's because when I talk about what I talk about in my books is the event. This Popular Paradigm covers the process some, but not like it should have been. Not like it should have been, because the process needs to be talked about. It needs to be shared, because that was without the process, the event couldn't have happened, not successfully anyway. So it's time. It's time for me to talk about the process because it was very real, and I did it within the circumstance. I did it. The seed happened. It sat in the mud. It softened. It germinated through the 10. There was 10. It was a 10-month process that I went through before I left. So this particular video is number one, to introduce that idea into all of this material, and number two, to talk about the very first thing that I did that made it all possible for me. Because when I did it, I had no idea. Had no idea that I was doing it. I had no idea that what I was doing was going to be the foundation, the spark of the flame, the planting of the seed, the the calling of the universe to the caterpillar that you're meant to be more than this. This one thing that I did in the summer of 1999 uh, was was I couldn't, nothing else could have happened without this. Okay, so I mentioned in the first video that I am a minister. I'm an ordained minister. I was ordained by James Twyman as a minister of peace in 2011, and the name of my ministry is Open Moment Ministries, and it's called that because of this one thing that I did in August of 1999, and that's what this tattoo is right here. The open moment, OM, open moment. This is the tagline for my ministry. I mean, this is my ministry logo. The tagline says, live in the OM, which to me means live in the open moment. So what is the open moment? The open moment, really, it's Mary Mannon Morrissey. I don't know if she coined the term, but she's the one that I heard discussing it, and as the definition and giving the definition of what it meant. What it means is just opening the tiniest corner of your mind to the possibility that what you want can happen. So to me, that means all right, so I'll just tell you what happened and then we'll have a little discussion. So in August of 1999, I had a thought that I had never really had before. And that thought was, there's got to be a better way for me to live than this. There's got to be a better way for me to live than this. Because this is awful. This feels terrible. There's got to be a better way to do it. There wasn't any part of me, not one iota, not for one fraction of a second, that believed that there could be a better way for me to live, because I had been doing it this way for 34 and a half years. So I didn't believe it. I didn't believe that there could be a better way. But that thought, it kept showing up. There's got to be a better way for me to live than this. There's got to be a better way for me to live than this. And if you've ever had any version of that thought, I encourage you to dive into the material that's going to be made available to you on this website. It doesn't cost anything. I'm not charging money for this. I am asking for donations because I'm putting a lot of work into this. So yes, it's love offering based. And if you receive something useful from this material, I would love for you to click the Pay Now button or whatever it says on the page and just give a little donation, even if it's only $5. It's something, because this is my heart work, and it's work. So just as a little aside. So if you've ever had that thought, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way to do this. I just don't know what it is. Then dive into this material, because you will find stuff in it that you can use. And there's going to be a lot of it. I'm just starting. There's going to be a lot. I have a whole series of, oh look, there's the butterfly and the lotus right there on my arm. The wind is still blowing. And it's very distracting. Okay, so there's got to be a better way for me to live than this. I did not believe that. I didn't believe it. But I decided to be willing to believe it. I decided, I had the thought, there's got to be a better way for me to live than this. No way. There's no way, because I've lived my whole life this way. There's no way it could be any better than this for me. It maybe for somebody else, but not for me, because it's not meant for me. My life is not meant to be easy. I was put on this planet to suffer. All that crap that those of us who have been abused say to ourselves. But I decided, no, I don't believe it. But I'm just going to be willing to believe it. I don't know how it could happen. I don't know how it could be possible, but I'm willing to believe that it's possible. And so that was how I did the next 5 or 6 weeks of my life in that relationship with him. Every once in a while, there's got to be a better way to do this. I don't know what that could be, but I'm willing to believe that a better way exists for me. I'm willing to believe. That is called the open moment. That is an open moment thought. Just having the tiniest corner of your mind open to the possibility. And when we can do that purposely, possibility will present itself to us because we're looking for it, because we're willing to see it. At first, we're willing to see it. And then when we become more, so really that is the shifting of a pattern. When we start deliberately having a new thought about things, that is a shifting of a pattern. And as the pattern shifts, the experience shifts. As my patterns of thought shift their focus, shift the content, then my experience of my circumstances shifts as well. You want to know why? I'll say this, I will be saying this over and over again. Circumstances are neutral. My circumstances don't give a rat's ass what I think of them or how I feel about them. They just are. Look at the word itself. Split it in two. Circumstance. The word circumstance means that which stands around me. Circumstance, that which stands around me. It doesn't get any more neutral than that. My circumstances are just that which stands around me. This room that I'm in, the wind outside, the curtain blowing back and forth, it doesn't care what I think about it. It doesn't care how I feel about it. It just is. It's just doing what it's doing. The leaves blowing, I can hear it. It sounds wonderful. I really hope it's not too distracting for you. But it doesn't care. None of that stuff cares. The candle behind me, see this candle right there? It doesn't care what I think about it or how I feel about it. It's just the flame is just burning. It doesn't care. And that's true of any circumstance. Traffic, your job, your relationship. The circumstance itself doesn't give a rat's ass what you think about it or how you feel about it. It just is. The experience, how you experience your circumstances, is completely up to you. I've mentioned a couple times that I have some physical stuff going on. I'm waiting for the results of a biopsy. I don't know if I have cancer or not. The cells of my body, yes, my thoughts do affect them, but the cells themselves have nothing invested in what I think of them or how I feel about them. They just are. They just are. And I get to experience this circumstance in whatever way I choose. So I can freak out. I can be scared. I can be upset. I can be, oh my God, what am I going to do? You know what the effect has been on me? It has felt like the cosmic 2x4 saying, it's time for you to get this material out there. Because I've been thinking about it for a while. I've been considering it for a while. I've been contemplating how I want to go about it. Well, I don't get to do that anymore because, at the beginning of the year, I said I'm going to make this year mean something. And now, there's a possible diagnosis that's just around the corner that might say you aren't going to have a whole 51st year. So make this day count. And so what it has done is it has given me, I called it the cosmic 2x4. It has given me a sense of urgency about getting this material available. That's all. you know, it's my hope that I don't have cancer because I don't really want to have cancer. But if I do, I get to experience that circumstance in whatever way I choose. And I can do it from the open moment. So so let's say the biopsy comes back positive and I have cancer. Then it's going to be I get to choose how I deal with that. I get to choose how, always. I always get to choose how I deal with the news and whatever the news happens to be, whether it's on CNN or whether it's coming from my doctor's office. I get to choose how I deal with the news. So if it hits me, like a blow, and I go into that whole "oh my God, I'm going to die" thing, I don't have to stay there, and I'm not going to. If I go there, I'm not going to get mad at myself for going there because I know I have tools that will bring me out. And this, the open moment, is one of the most powerful ones because I use it. If you've ever used affirmations and you find that, I'm doing the affirmation, I am wealthy, I am wealthy, I am wealthy, and there's not one part of you that believes you're wealthy, it feels like a big fat lie. It feels like a big fat lie. Affirmations are not going to do you any good if you cannot feel them as true. If it feels like a big fat lie, you're going to experience it as a big fat lie. So that's just one example of how I use the open moment. If I'm going to do an affirmation, I come up with a good affirmation and it feels like a big fat lie to me at first, I just preface it with, I'm willing to believe this is possible. I'm willing to believe that I can be wealthy or healthy or in a really loving relationship or whatever you're affirming. If you're affirming something and it feels too big for you to actually be able to believe it's possible for you, just be willing. Just be willing to believe it. And from there you will move naturally into an ability to believe. I can take it from someone who knows because I've been doing this for years. When I find that I can't believe something that I would like to believe, I start with the open moment. The open moment is so big for me. It's like my favorite because it's easy. It's easy to do. I can be willing to believe anything, and I know from experience that from that willingness to believe is born the ability to believe. So the seed is planted. The seed is planted in the mud of I don't believe that's possible, but I nurture it with I'm willing to believe, and sooner or later it sprouts into just the barest beginning of a belief. And from there it grows if I nurture it, if I cultivate it. It has to be up to me though. You can't do it for you. You can't do it for me. I have to do it for myself. And every single thing that I'm going to be presenting on this website is true about, that's the truth about it. This stuff will all work. Every bit of it will work for you if you're willing to do the work. If you are willing to do the work of managing who you're being in the midst of the circumstance that you would like to be different, then you can do it. But you have to be willing to do the work, and it's not easy work. It's hard. This is the hardest thing you'll ever do because it's a matter of managing your mind, and we're not taught to manage our mind. We're not taught how to manage our mind in school. We're not taught how to really think. And that's another one of the videos that I'm going to do will address that. There are 6 mental faculties that every human being on this planet has, and we are not taught, just like we have 5 senses, we also have 6 mental faculties, but we are not taught how to use them as the tools that they are meant to be. So another video in this series, or whatever you want to call it, is going to address that. But for now, we're talking about the open moment. There's got to be a better way for me to live than this, is a valid thought. And if you can't believe it for yourself, then don't. Start with don't try to force yourself to believe it, because that won't work. That will just make you suffer. You will be creating your own suffering if you try to force it. So let it happen. I'm willing to believe. I am willing to believe that there's a better way for me to do this. I'm willing to believe that there's a better way for me to live than this. I don't know what that could be, but right now I'm just willing. And I'm willing, here's the other half of this, I'm willing to see evidence of that show up in my life. And it will. It will. So on that note, this video is plenty long, and it's good. It's good. So I'm gonna sign off now, and leave a comment below. I'm still working on the website, and I will be adding the ability for you to leave comments as I get into putting this website together. So if you have questions, you can contact me through the website. Just use the contact form through the website. I'll get your message and I will respond. If you have questions or comments, or you know, you don't have to share your real name, and I certainly will not share your information. I remember what that was like. I won't ever share your information with anyone. So rest assured there. So again, if you have questions or comments, get in touch with me. I'm here, I'm available, and I would like to help. That's like my mission. Hello. So have a good rest of your day if you choose to. Sandy Daly, off.